let's get to Benny Johnson, because I want to hear from the real Americans. I want to hear from the Americans of impact, the Americans of note, the Americans of notoriety, brilliant Americans. What is Benny Johnson saying about these tariffs? Let's take a look.
Nothing. This is just the reality of life. You're gonna, like, were you young and dumb? How much money did you lose? Everyone loses money. Everyone loses money. It costs you nothing. In fact, it builds quite a bit of character. In fact,
ain't no way he's doing the raise the price of rent. That'll just make me grind harder. Has he been crying? What is happening? Bro. Oh.
You learn a lot of lessons, actually, by losing money. Losing your character costs you everything. Losing your country costs you everything. There are things you can't get back. The government can print more money, and it will. Sadly, that's just reality. It's fugazi. It's just that there's a boom and a bust every 10 years, and it's been that way since the invention of modern markets in the 1600s. The Dutch crash of 1649. You ever heard of it? It's just the way that it works. It's the way that, like, monetary policy has always worked. There's going to be ups and downs, especially as the table gets.
Oh my God. Yeah, look at the Great Depression. It just happens. It just happens, and it's fine, and it's okay. You shouldn't say that unimaginable pain that comes out of that is anything but a character building moment. It's just simply an opportunity for you to learn how to make water soup. That builds character. Ketchup sandwiches, a character building operation. Think about that. That's right.
It's reset. If you lose the character of your country, if your town gets hollowed out.
Amazing to think people like this have friends that don't say, "What are you talking about, dude?" Well, he doesn't have any friends, just dick appointments.
Give me that photo of that town, man. Give me the photo of that town in West Virginia. If your town gets hollowed out and your entire neighborhood gets addicted to opioids, and your steel mill shuts down, and your farmers can't grow crops, and there's no more cattle ranchers, there's no more cowboys, there's no more fishers, there's no more workers.
Hyperinflation, period of hyperinflation incoming, a entire generation of war veterans that have no jobs, okay, and no economic prospects. The erosion of due process and other civil liberties, a process in which you are expeditiously denaturalizing and removing people from their citizenship status. Welcome back, Adolf Hitler. This is what's going on. Okay? Welcome back, zestier Adolf Hitler. Straight up. Incredible. Hitler was zesty. Yeah, Trump is, I'm saying Hitler was zesty. Trump is even zestier than Adolf.
And we're completely and totally dependent upon slave labor peasants across Asia to make every good
Adolf Hitler
and service and pharmaceutical. Then you've actually lost your country. And then we are the slaves. There you go. This is West Virginia. And it's so sad that this was a factory that provided thousands of honest, good-hearted, steel-working jobs.
Dude, it's kind of funny that virtually every single person that has funded Benny Johnson is more responsible for that photo than anyone else that he's talking about here. Like, the people that directly fund Benny Johnson so he can implement this right-wing project are straightforwardly the only people in American society that are responsible for this. More so than even the Democrats and the Republican politicians. Okay? And certainly a lot more responsibility falls on their hands than random Malaysian and Chinese people. Okay? It's not the Vietnamese government. It's not the Chinese government that did this. It is the people that he is tasked with defending that did this. His entire purpose on planet Earth is to sit there and make the remaining fans of his, the Benny Johnson heads out there, not recognize that reality by reshifting their attention to trans people or undocumented migrants or woke or whatever the new hot thing is to get mad about. That is literally all he does. That is what all Republicans do. That's what Democrats do as well in a different way. But this right here, what you're watching right here in and of itself is also repurposing that same propaganda.
For our fellow countrymen. And it was ripped. The guts of it got ripped out and shipped by people like Mitch McConnell so that they could make a couple extra points in their portfolio.
People like Mitch McConnell, brother, you are serving the same masters. You're a part of the same party. You have the same ideology. You have defended Mitch McConnell your entire career. These guys are insane.
To get stock swaps with Pan-Asian countries. And they sold out their countrymen. And I call that traitorism, actually. I think that's the definition of a traitor. You can lose money. You can lose points in your portfolio. It costs you absolutely nothing. You won't miss them when you're dead. Nobody ever had their net worth carved onto their tombstone.
Like, rip Benny Johnson out of this equation and put like Jason Unruhe in his stead, and the argument doesn't even need to change. It's who he is that makes this ridiculous, because what he's saying is not ridiculous. What he's not saying, on the other hand, what he's omitting is the part that is disingenuous. Okay? Because yes, Mitch McConnell is responsible for this. Yes, the Democrats are responsible for this, but they did this at the behest of capital. Okay? That is the major problem here. Benny Johnson, who has defended those masters and has defended those interests his entire career, is now making a heel turn because he's playing catch up and trying to defend Donald Trump's decisions. But what he's saying is not wrong. The problem is it should be the anti-fascist, anti-capitalist, worker-backed party that is supposed to be a counterbalance against the reactionary, hyper-capitalist forces in this country, and we don't have that. So in the absence of that, the absence of the Democratic Party representing that, right, you have these Republicans try and fill that void.
Doesn't even matter when you're on your deathbed who digits on a ledger. What will matter is, did you preserve your nation for your children?
Okay, never mind. This part is also white supremacist callbacks. He said what really matters is, did you preserve your nation for your children? It's missing. He's doing 13 words, not 14. You know what I mean? Just one word missing from that. Yeah. The word that's missing is white. That's it. That's the famous 14 words that he's doing a callback to without saying white.
Did you view your country as something more than just an economic zone and tax cattle and slaves to China? Put that up, President Trump. No crying in the casino. Is it really? I don't care. It's too good. The final point I'll make on this is, who's the slave and who's the master?
He's like, we must remember the dialectic. The bourgeois capital-owning class has designed our political economy to suit their purpose. This inherent contradiction will inevitably get to a point where it's unmanageable. I'm Benny Johnson, and I approve.
You know, if your pharmaceutical and automobile and phone, all the wires in your home, every electronic in your home, if everything that you use in your life is wholly and totally built by a foreign power that hates you, then you're the slave. You've always thought of America as the master of the world or as like an empire. But it's not. Not if we are totally dependent and on our knees before these third world goblin dictatorships. So it's time for a total reset. It's time for them to know who's boss.
These guys went from the Great Reset is happening by the World Economic Forum to the Great Reset is happening and it's good.
And it's time for us to be the master once again. That's the point of this country, actually, to be the master of our own destinies.
Wow. a somber tone from Benny Johnson. Very different attitude, very different approach. Now let's look at the other side of the Republican Party, who hasn't forgotten who pays their checks. Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is having a moment where he will go back to his classical liberal ways, okay? Ben Shapiro has not forgotten where his bread is buttered, and he is also ideologically consistent, and he's not going to play catch-up and try to defend Donald Trump's indefensible policies, at least now. He will in a couple months. He will. But for the time being, he's going to be like, this is stupid. This is incredibly dumb. I hate it. And the reason why he's doing that is because he is a real free trade guy. He does believe in it. Just like the Rand Pauls of the world believe in it. Just like the former Republican Party actively believed in it and defended these policies because they understood that this was truly beneficial for the capital-owning class, even if it completely gutted the American manufacturing capabilities, the American labor force. It was fine because profits were sky high.
President Trump declared that
profits were sky high, and they never thought that China would be able to take advantage of the situation with redistributive policies, with even development, with rapid expansion, with rapid urbanization. They never thought that China would be able to improve its material realities and not only be a competitive force, but one that could even dominate the United States of America in the global marketplace. That is precisely the reason why these guys entertain the notion of moving manufacturing overseas, specifically to China, the Genghis Gambit, without little care or consideration for what that might do to the United States of America, because they didn't give a shit. They never gave a shit about their countrymen.
it was, in fact, Liberation Day, his giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. Trump's reciprocal tariffs impose hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on Americans, be the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968. One of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers who use inputs from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real-world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are, in fact, not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan. It is predicated on a bad idea of how international trade works. A fundamental misunderstanding of trade deficits. Trade deficits they're an accounting procedure. Trade deficits have pretty much nothing to do with the health of an economy. I can name you a period in American history where there was a fairly large surplus in America's balance of trade. The entire Great Depression.
Bro got 99% tariff on wet pussy. Oh, no. Oh, that's insane. That's an insane statement, chatter. It's correct, but you shouldn't say it.